Hey, hi, Isabel.
Hi.
All right, how are you doing this evening? Welcome to Performance Seminar. So we've got let me just check that our live stream is going here. Yes, all right. Give me one moment. All right, I believe that you are the only person on the program this evening. But I think you probably know the drill, so just make sure that you've got your original sound enabled. Um, you can just start us out, let us know what the piece you're playing, and the composer, and then you can go ahead and start whenever you're ready, okay?
I'm Isabel, and I'll be playing Sonatina in C by Kalau.
All right. All right. Okay, great work, Isabel. Um, so this was really nicely done. Was that all memorized?
Yeah.
Yeah, okay. Yeah, it seemed great. Um, so what was something that you thought went well in that performance? Let's start there.
I think my dynamics were pretty good, and I played it like smoothly.
Yeah, so I mean your creation of a sense of pulse, if that's what you mean by smoothly, like yeah, there was no you played straight through everything. There were no um fluctuations or like stops in the rhythm or any of the pulse. You had a nice steady um tempo throughout, even and the right, the 16th note parts were even with the parts where there was just quarter notes or something like that, right? So all your rhythms were fitting together really nicely. um yeah, and I thought you had a great sense of the drama in this with the different dynamic levels at different points in the piece. So yeah, I thought you had a great sense of the shape of the dynamics too as we went through the piece. um So let's go into so tell us a little bit about learning this. So what was something you found particularly difficult learning this piece?
Like the 16th notes, like in the right hand and the left hand, where like it goes like.
Hmm. Okay, so nearing the end of the development here, yeah. Hmm. Well, so what did you? Was it just practicing your left hand so you didn't get your fingers tangled up?
Yeah, and also to like switch the finger numbers sometimes. For like,
Hmm. Something else was more comfortable. Okay. Was that was the trickiest part, just all the 16th note runs?
yeah.
Okay, so what were some ways that you I mean that was sounding good. So what were some of the ways you practiced those 16th notes?
I used like dotted rhythm.
Okay. Or and then you and then reversed it.
Yeah.
Was there any other right? So I'm assuming we probably went through it slow and worked on the finger crossing. Um, that was and you did dotted rhythms.
Hmm.
Did you break it up or anything like that? Well, so that's one. So one thing you can do with, and this goes for both the right hand and the left hand, right? Is one thing you can do is practice. Oh, let me get the music back. I didn't have it up as we're talking about it here. Um, one other thing you can do with these runs, because I know there's a lot of them in this piece. Do them, organize them by beat, if that makes sense, right? So like instead of doing the whole scale, do maybe count one to the very beginning of count two. And then from count two to count three. Right. And then that way you can see kind of which little portion of the scale is the one that's the most awkward, and then you can work just that. Um, so that that sort of thing. Um, any other particular difficult things, or was it just the 16th notes?
Mainly the 16th notes.
Okay. Yeah, I mean that's kind of the showy part of this piece. Okay. So what let's get into how you interpreted this. So have you do you eh, did you learn anything about the particular composer, the particular piece?
Not really.
Okay. If you had to guess, what kind of what period do you think this composer was working in?
Like classical.
Yeah. Um and this is what is this Kulao, right? With the L. This is the Kulao sonatina, right? With an L. I
Uh,
feel like I want to say there's also a Kunao with an N, so I'm confusing myself here. Um, but I think that's it. I think that's it. Um, so Kulao, yes. Oh, there it is. Yes. Okay, it is Kulao. Um, I think is a little bit towards the end of the classical paradigm, but he's still sort of in a similar um, era as like I want to say like probably Beethoven. Um, he's probably roughly about the same time frame as Beethoven. So this I think this is probably a more intentionally a more classical looking piece. Um, yeah. So what are some? How would you describe the since you did really well with the dynamics? So if we're talking about sort of the style of this piece, what did you what did you see as kind of the journey that you go on through the piece. So how did the different parts of the piece unfold? Because you did very well, bringing out different moments of drama with your dynamics with your playing.
So like at the beginning, you're kind of just like it's kind of just like walking through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so the beginning's kind of gentle, right?
Um,
Right. So even, and I know we've got the left hand sort of chugging along in eighth notes, right, with this the Alberti bass pattern, and it's all in kind of a high register, right? But our melody even is interesting because it's half notes, right? So that's also maybe what makes it seem a little bit more, uh, calm and uh, a little bit more laid back, maybe simple, because like later on, and you probably had to work with this with your tempo, right? You know that later on we've got all these 16th notes coming, but you've got to really gauge keeping everything calm so you don't get too fast there. um okay, so talk a little bit about the so what's kind of the expressive journey we go through in the piece. So we begin with this calm theme that's kind of chugging along, but not at all intense.
uh, like the triplet part, maybe like you face like a challenge
Mm-hmm.
and then the part after that, like you're glad you made it through.
Yeah, so I know I like that. So we've got in the beginning, right, this kind of calm theme, and then we have a little bit of it in the bass. We kind of act like, okay, now we have a lower version of this melody. We're just starting a lower version, and then it gets, right, like you said, right, it gets interrupted. There's something a little more intense, and you did a good job, right, making this really sudden. And this is getting a little more. This is how we know it's kind of towards the, I guess, the later part of the classical paradigm. Although this is very much something that happens in Mozart and Haydn. You'll have this very sudden kind of stormy part, right? Um, but then yes, like you said, it kind of disappears pretty quickly. So its goal, notice, is we were in C here. We were in the key of C. We kind of had a little shadowy moment of C minor where that became minor. Um, but then when we come out of this, we've got a new theme that's in G major, right? So it also accomplishes, it takes us to a different key, takes us to a different place here. Um, and again, yeah, you like you said, right? Then we go back to the same sort of, right, same dynamic level, similar area, right? A similar register on the keyboard. So we're back in the high zone, and kind of a similar character. Good. And then what happens towards the end, I guess, expressively, right? So this is a little bit busier, but similar feel to the beginning of the piece.
Um, like maybe like this part, like that part, like at the end,
Mm-hmm.
each one, like
Yeah, well, so don't miss all the 16th notes. So we have our calm kind of G major part return here. How are you interpreting the 16th note part as we get into these lines?
I don't know.
Well, does it stay calm sounding? So like here, yeah, probably still calm sounding. Um, Now we have a sudden loud dynamic, but this doesn't sound like threatening or anything, right? How would you describe this 16th note part at the end expressively?
Like you're starting to run, or like you're starting to get like faster.
Yeah, so I mean a little just a little more exciting, right? A little more excitement, peppy, I don't know, right? Showy, there's more energy here. And you said, right? So and then you were pointing here, right? Another sort of we get some shadowy moments in the beginning of this the second part of the piece, um, right, where we combine. Now we're combining instead of the triplets. Notice we're combining those scales, the 16. Those scales are coming back in this kind of shadowy C minor sound, right? Um, and then yeah, and then we kind of redo, right? We redo some of the things we did at the beginning of the piece to kind of relive that same trajectory, right? So, fairly simple, but I thought the reason I asked is I thought you did a good job bringing out the different mood and character of each section. So not even just the dynamics, but that carried into this kind of mood, right? Um, Now, if we go through the piece, it's basically what was happening in each section, right? As we had kind of a calm mood, then something challenging, right, or threatening happened, then we kind of were able to go through that and we came back to a calm mood, right, and then got maybe a little bit excited, a little bit peppy for the end, right? We had to have a finale at the end of each section. So even though that's right, it's simple when you just talk through it, right? But remember that sort of thing is that's important for the people listening to the music, right? Because when that happens in music, that gives people a sense of structure, and like so that's kind of the pathway that they're listening to through the music. So I thought you did a terrific job doing that. um all right, so you are our only person. We got a lot of time. We got a lot of time working through that. Like I said, a lot of great details in here. So I can tell you really practiced all the 16th note runs, and you did a great job keeping your tempo really even in a way that could accommodate all of these different rhythms, right? So the half notes, the 16th note runs. Um, and then secondly, I could tell, right, you'd really outlined which parts of the piece were which dynamics, and did a great job bringing that out. So nice work, Isabel. All right, I'll see you next time we play. Thanks so much.